Okay, so I'm going to call the meeting to order. My computer tells me it is 7:04. I can't share my screen because the host has disabled it, but and I don't have a flag in my home office. I apologize. Laurel has. So let's all say up the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
The
of the
United
United
States of America,
and to
and
the
to the republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation, under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Justice.
for all. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chin, are you saying that there are no members of the public on the call?
Not at the current moment.
Okay, so we will bypass public comment then. I will take a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting of June 25th, please.
So moved.
Mr. Haley
Second.
and Mr.
Second.
LeMay seconds. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. I see
Aye.
Mr. Haley, Mr. LeMay, and Mr. Magliocco by voice, and me, I add mine. So it's a unanimous vote. We're going to go now to a project update. We start with where we are financially. Mr. Martin, is there anything we need to know?
Nothing new other than that one furniture bill that you sent over for payment that's in here. What's not here is the check request you sent over later that week is not in here, and whatever else you're going to do tonight.
Okay, the check request was for payment for our clerk for her diligence and great work. It was minimal. So I also know we have to take out about $14,000 for bonding costs, which leaves us with an estimated balance of about $34,000.
That is correct.
So we will proceed from there. You received in your packet a punch list from Jakunski Humes, and also a second one that's titled Renovations, Trumbull Police Department. The second one was made at my request because there were some items that had been discussed that were not on the Jakunski Humes list. Presumably because he's not really overseeing them, but I did want one piece of paper where everything outstanding was gathered so that we don't miss anything. So Assistant Chief Burns has prepared it, and that's the one we're going to work on. All of the items from the Jakunski Humes punch list are on there. I cross-referenced it. I see that item 3, the modifications to the male shower are completed, and the locker boot drawer pulls are completed. So I want to go through the rest. We said the electrical complete outlet at one men's locker. For that and the next one, the electrical correction and the change order for the lighting, what costs may be involved in those? And what else do we need to know about these items? I'm asking you, Assistant Chief Burns.
Oh, yes. They were pre-approved with the lighting change at a previous meeting. The work was just done. The men's locker room was completed yesterday. The correction in the following one for the range fixture, dimming control, was corrected today. And the following item was the installation in the evidence storage room, which involved the change order. That was completed today as well.
So all those 3 are done now, yay. And there's no additional funding requirement or nothing we're going to see for that. Okay.
That's all covered already.
Okay, so what we now have, we have the manuals at the top, and then we have the plaque mount in the lobby. That's pending. The commission.
The plaque is supposed to be shipped tomorrow, I'm told, and Bismarck expects to install that next week.
Okay, that's great. And then the commissioning, is that a date TBD?
Yes, commissioning with Kohler Ronan was an item that the committee approved for the mechanical aspects. I just spoke to the project manager here from Bismarck right up to today and yesterday. He says he's waiting to hear from them as to a schedule, but that's going to be happening soon.
Do we think soon means before the end of July?
I would like to think so, but there's too many other people that
Okay.
that depends on. So I can't, I don't know that for sure.
Okay, and then the tabletop is in
I just-
Kansas, or
I just received word that they're supposed to deliver it tomorrow, so I'll let you know if and when that happens, so we can pay that bill as well.
okay. And so then we only have the last three items, the wall panel, I assume, okay, so the wall panels, what's the status on the last three items? How about that? We'll just do it that way.
Wall paneling in the range, I did speak with George on that. He has a proposal. I think he'll explain in just a moment. The second item is the exhaust in the cells that's noted as completed, and remediation for the vent unit exterior. That project's also underway, which I'm sure George will explain in more detail.
Okay, so the exhaust system in the three cells, there was some discussion about whether that was town work, whether that was artwork, were there costs associated with completing that work? I don't see any invoices related to it. So is that good? Is it finished?
George?
Madam Chair, I believe that the invoices were on the town side.
Okay,
That was a fan that had failed on the roof. So I don't believe committee will see any additional.
okay, so the fan on the roof was the one, I know they were saying that the exhaust fan was maybe connected to the wrong duct or something. So that's
Yeah.
all.
Well, as part of the project, they were balancing the system. They didn't change anything further than what had been done back a couple of months ago. That was more a balancing of the system, but the fan replacement and repair up on the roof, that was on the town side. That was done by a supervisor on the town side.
Okay, great. Thank you. And you're going to talk about that. Okay, so that's done. Okay. Finish wall panels at firing range. Is that what this, is that related to this acoustical solutions?
Yes,
Technical data
those acoustical solutions, that is a sound attenuation batting. It's about 2 inches thick. It's affixed to the walls with an adhesive, which will allow us to finish off that area inside where the officers are firing from. There were some areas there that they had stripped off some previous wall coverings and left some areas unfinished. So these will be affixed over those areas and provide additional sound attenuation and a finished surface in that area.
Okay, so this is not an invoice then of things you've already purchased. This is a request for an approval so you can go ahead and finish the work. Is that correct?
Correct. And we will do the installation of that in-house. We had an initial estimate, Glenn, correct me, but I think it was over $3,000.
Yeah, a lot more
Yes.
than that.
Right. And so we are requesting that the committee support the purchase of the materials, and then we will schedule that with town resources to do installation.
Okay, so that is technical data sheet for acoustical solutions. I'm looking to see, just one second. I don't see a number on it, but the amount, it's a quantity of 3 in the amount of $1,317.
I don't have it in front of me, but I believe that's correct. That's quantity of 3, because I believe they come in a certain amount of square footage per quantity.
Okay, so then I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the amount of $1,317 to go to Acoustical Solutions to allow them to move ahead. Okay, I see a motion from Mr. Lemay and a second from Mr. Haley. Is there any discussion or other questions on this?
I'd like to pose a question. George, when I originally looked at this, I see it was the quote. I'm not sure if that included a delivery or if there's any additional charges for us to obtain the materials. Should we take into consideration?
We should probably take into consideration some level of shipping, but it won't be heavy because they're really almost like a foam. So they're very light. It's not something that's going to be a crated material.
Right.
So
I'm thinking the invoice may be slightly higher.
a not to exceed number. What would that number look like, you think, Mr. Estrada?
why don't we add $100 for shipping? And that should be more than sufficient. I don't think that we would exceed that. We should be.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask for an amendment to the motion to approve the amount not to exceed $1,417. Mr. Lemay, are you okay with that? So we're just gonna change the motion. It's not gonna be an official amendment. We'll just restate the motion with that different number. May I have a second, Mr. Haley? You okay with that? Okay, any other questions? Mr. Magliocco?
Lisa, I'm sorry. Are you amending the motion or just restating the original motion?
Restate the original motion to be in the
Okay.
amount of 1,407.
Okay, thank you.
Any discussion, other questions? Okay, I'm gonna call for a vote. Mr. Magliocco, I need a voice vote from you.
Aye, yes.
Okay, and I
Sorry,
see
yes.
LeMay and Mr. Haley and myself, so it's a unanimous approval on that. And you want to now speak to the infamous remediation. I see some invoices for fencing.
Yes. First, I shared with you the estimates that the quotes that we received from a state-approved. They were successful in the state fencing bid, which municipalities can benefit from because it's based on large quantities statewide. So these are always normally the most competitive quotes. And the initial one for $6,750, that will be something for 175 feet of 6-foot high fencing. That will be covered by the town because that's the property line separator. It's between several houses and the police department. There were some trees in a storm that came down and damaged those. So they've been very unsightly. Those fences are probably original to the building. They're unsightly at this time. So we will replace that. That will be covered on the town side from my budget. And the second part of that is the second page is $18,365. That is for the actual screening fencing, which is hard fencing that in some areas up to 8 feet high around the areas that have the most sound, that will be most impactful to the neighbors by the sound of the mechanicals. So we will establish something surrounding that with 8-foot fencing separated from the units that should project the sound on a vertical plane as opposed to just going across horizontally and impacting that neighborhood.
Okay, so what we're saying is that, and thank you for that the town will cover the cost around the perimeter of the property, that we will cover this 18,000 and change for around the mechanicals themselves, correct?
Correct. This 18,365, it should be something that's considered part of the project. It's the final initiative to complete the exterior project.
Okay, so that was my other question. Does anybody have other questions? But was that this, when we purchase the fencing, that should essentially complete the work that you're planning to do on behalf of this piece?
We anticipate that this should remediate any of the concerns, the remaining concerns that the neighbors have. The only other thing is the lighting, which is something that we're working on our side, on the town side, and figuring out how we do something with those lighting fixtures so that they don't reflect towards the house as much as they do now.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any other questions for Mr. Estrada or Assistant Chief Burns on this? Okay, then I'm going to ask for a motion to approve, let me see, the invoice for generator enclosure fencing. It's part of contract 19 PSX 0136 in the amount of $18,365. Do I have a motion? Mr. LeMay, second, Mr. Haley. Any other discussion? Okay, I'm going to call for a vote. Mr. Magliocco?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Haley, I see. Mr. Mr. Lemay, I see, and myself, so that's unanimously approved, which leaves us with a balance of approximately $15,600, give or take some dollars, which makes me breathe a little easier than the 7,500 I thought we would have. So I really appreciate the town taking up that other piece of the expense. Mr. Assistant Chief, Mr. Estrada, is there any other thing that you know of that we should be anticipating? I'm going to ask the same question for the Assistant Chief.
No, at this time, I think that we've covered everything that I'm aware of. Glenn can follow up, but Glenn and I have worked on several other issues along the way in the last couple of months, and I think we pretty much buttoned everything up.
Okay, do you have a timeline for the remediation for the outdoor?
The exterior, now that this is approved, we will request that from the contractor. We really weren't moving forward with anything, not taking anything for granted until the committee had provided approval.
Okay.
It will be as quickly as possible because I have regular conversations with the neighbors.
Oh,
So
sure you do.
I promise you that we will be working to get this buttoned up very quickly.
Okay, so typically we would meet again in 2 weeks, which would be the 23rd. Is that really pushing it to have it be completed, or do you think it would at least be well underway?
I think we'll probably be underway at that time because there's some material to be ordered and that sort of thing. So I do not think that I will be complete in 2 weeks, but I certainly hope that I will be well underway.
And we have to go through purchasing yet too. We have to do a purchase order, and these two people are new vendors to the town, so we have to get new vendor information and tax IDs and all that stuff. So it's
Okay.
gonna be.
Okay, so then Assistant Chief Burns, do we need to meet in 2 weeks? Would you like us to convene in 2 weeks? I assume it would be for an update and relatively brief, but I leave that to you, or do you want to wait and see and make that decision a little closer?
I think all the pieces that come to mind, we've already addressed them, and all the pending invoices that need to be covered were already approved. And until we see them delivered or completed, I would suggest we can set a date for 2 weeks in the event that we need some business covered, or we're able to close out anything, and we could always reschedule it a week or 2 weeks as needed, depending on what happens between now and then.
Okay, Mr. Chin, I'm just giving you the heads up. So that would be July 23rd. We'd like to just be sure we're on the schedule. We'll let you know as soon as we can if that's not needed. Okay.
Sure, 23rd looks great.
Okay, great. Thank you. And in the meantime, so I've got those. So what I've got outstanding then is the manuals, the warranty documents, the plaque, the commissioning, the tabletop, the panels in the firing range, and the remediation. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we're getting there. And so we'll look for an update. Even if Assistant Chief Burns, if we decide that we're not going to meet, if you could just maybe provide us with this document updated, put the completed items on the bottom, move everything else up so we're following along, that would be really helpful.
Absolutely. I'm hoping that if not 2 weeks, perhaps in 3 weeks, we'll have the bulk of these things, as many of these completed as we can, and draw even closer to a close.
Okay, so thank you very much for that. Does anybody have any other questions? I do have something I just need to share. I am going to be moving out of town at the end of the month, and as such, I need to resign my position as a police commissioner, and I have submitted that resignation, which will be effective Friday the 24th at 5 o'clock. So as I'm no longer a police commissioner, and as the town council resolution forming this committee, I sit here in the capacity of a police commissioner, so I will have to be coming off the building committee as well. Mr. Magliocco is the vice chair. I've spoken to the chair of the town council, who says that, given there's no need to appoint anybody else to the committee. That Mr. Magliocco will make sure the meetings, and with the help of Ms. Anderson, the meetings will continue. So they will have, she's anticipating hopefully that at the August meeting, they can disband this committee. We will see how that pans out. I will certainly be at that meeting regardless of my position, just to give the accolades to the police department and the town who have been so supportive of us. And I really want to express my gratitude to Mr. Estrada and Mr. White and Mr. Martin and Mr. Bova, and of course, the assistant chief and the staff at the PDs, and all of you for your service. It's been a lot longer than we thought it would take, but construction, I think, always works that way. And there's always, Glenn, you did an outstanding job, I think, of planning and doing the best you could to keep it moving along and minimizing the extraneous oops charges that so typically come up. And I really commend you for that.
Thank you.
The planning, I think, is key to a successful construction project always. And you really, really did a great job on that. So thank you for that.
My pleasure.
Anything else? Any other business? Yes, Mr. LeMay?
I'd like to thank you for your service, Lisa. This was not an easy project. And should you decide to come back into Trumbull, I'd be the first one to nominate you for the next building committee chair position.
Well, that's,
you've done a great job. So
thank you. And I want to say,
thank you.
what Mr. LeMay is not telling you is that there were many, especially in the beginning, there were many behind the scenes calls to him to say, what do I do? What do I do? Because I've never done this before, and he has. So thank you for your guidance. Mr. Magliocco, I also want to say thank you. Your expertise in the field has been helpful as well. And I know Sean came on late. So I appreciate, him coming on and filling in and helping us get quorum when so many of our others, especially the town council people, had other commitments, as they do tonight. So that said, let's hope that we can wrap this up within a month or so and check it off the list and be done.
All right.
All right, I'll accept a motion to adjourn. Mr. LeMay, I'll second by Mr. Haley. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, you okay? Okay, so we're unanimous. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Good luck, Lisa.
Thank you.
Thanks.